The Minister of Culture is, in the government of France, in charge of national museums and monuments, promoting and protecting the arts in France and abroad, and managing the national archives and regional maisons de culture. The Ministry of Culture is also charged with maintaining the French identity. Its head office is in the Palais Royal in the first arrondissement of Paris. It is headed by the Minister of Culture, a cabinet member. History. Deriving from the Italian and Burgundian courts of the Renaissance, the notion that the state had a key role to play in the sponsoring of artistic production and that the arts were linked to national prestige was found in France from at least the 16th century on. During the pre-revolutionary period, these ideas are apparent in such things as the creation of the Académie Française, the Académie de Peinture et de Sculpture, and other state-sponsored institutions of artistic production, and through the cultural policies of Louis XIV's minister Jean-Baptiste Colbert. The modern post of Minister of Culture was created by Charles de Gaulle in 1959, and the first minister was the writer André Malraux. Malraux was responsible for realizing the goals of the droit à culture, an idea which had been incorporated in the French Constitution and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, by democratizing access to culture, while also achieving the Gaullist aim of elevating the grandeur of post-war France. To this end, he created numerous regional cultural centers throughout France and actively sponsored the arts. Malraux's artistic tastes included the modern arts and the avant-garde, but on the whole he remained conservative. Under President François Mitterrand, the Minister of Culture was Jacques Lang, who showed himself to be far more open to popular cultural production, including jazz, rock and roll, rap music, graffiti art, cartoons, comic books, fashion and food. His famous phrase, "économie et culture, meme combat," is representative of his commitment to cultural democracy and to active national sponsorship and participation in cultural production. In addition to the creation of the Fête de la Musique and overseeing the French bicentennial, he was in charge of the massive architectural program of the Mitterrand years and the City of Science and Music in La Villette. The Ministry of Chateaubon was notable for a number of laws enacted for the preservation of the French language, both in advertisements and on the radio, ostensibly in reaction to the presence of English. The current minister is, since the 11th of February 2016, Audrey Azoulay. Ministers of Culture. For a complete list, see names of the Ministry of Culture. Since the French Constitution does not identify specific ministers, each government may label each ministry as they wish, or even have a broader ministry in charge of several governmental sectors. Hence, the ministry has gone through a number of different names. Organization. Central administration. The Ministry of Culture is made up of a variety of internal divisions, including Direction de l'Administration Générale, Direction de l'Architecture et du Patrimoine, in charge of national monuments and heritage. Inventaire Général du Patrimoine Culturel maintains extensive databases of historical sites and objects. See Base Mairie Base Palais and Monument Historique. Direction des Archives de France, in charge of the National Archives. Direction du Livre et de la Lecture, in charge of French literature and the book trade. Direction de la Musique, de la Danse, du Théâtre et des Spectacles, in charge of music, dance and theatre. Direction des Musées et Études de France, in charge of the national museums. The ministry also has access to the division Direction du Développement des Médias, in charge of developing and expanding the French media. The ministry also runs 3 delegations: Délégation aux Arts Plastiques, in charge of the visual and sculptural arts; Délégation au Développement et aux Affaires Internationales, in charge of international affairs and French art; Délégation générale à la langue française et aux langues de France, in charge of the French language and languages of France. Finally, the ministry shares in the management of the National Centre of Cinema, a public institution. The Alliance Française is run by the Minister of Foreign Affairs. For more on the organization of the ministry, see Ministry of Culture. Other services on the national level. The ministry also runs regional cultural affairs, departmental architecture and monuments, departmental archives under the direction of the Conseil Général of each département, Centre National de la Danse, institution for the study and preservation of dance. Cultural activities. The Ministry of Culture is responsible for or a major sponsor of a number of annual cultural activities, including Fête de la Musique, Avignon Theatre Festival, Joconde, a huge online database of objects in French museums, Base Mérimée, a database of listed heritage monuments,